Hey, welcome everybody. Nitsan Mosry, the Traveling Investor, with another awesome show of the Traveling Investor Show. And we are born into our families, and we're born into our society, and we're born into our parents' financial reality. But what most people don't understand is that just because we're born into a specific family or socioeconomic world, it doesn't mean that's where we have to end up. Being poor isn't your fault. Being born poor isn't your fault. Dying poor is. And a majority of people live life by default. They accept the cards that they're dealt and offer no resistance to mediocrity. Here on the Traveling Investor Show, we talk about how to live life on your terms and create the life, finances, and relationships that you've been dreaming of your entire life. Join me, Nitsan Mosry, your host, every week on the live Traveling Investor Show, where we demystify the art of mastering your mind, body, and wallet so that you can go and live the life of your dreams. I'm Nitsan Mosry, the host. Welcome to another edition. And this week, I've got a great guest. And, we talk about building different streams of income, building funnels, talking to your network, building your network so that you can go out and really scale your business. On the Traveling Investor Show, we talk about how to create a business that will revolve around your lifestyle. And the gentleman that I have today, and he came up with just before we were talking on offline, he calls himself a digital nomad. And I like that. I like that term because a lot of us today are digital nomads. It doesn't matter if you're 15 years old or 75 years old. If you're able to tap into technology, if you have one of these, if you have a laptop, you too can become a digital nomad. You can live life on your terms. The only thing is you got to figure out what your terms are and then create the company and the business that will revolve around that lifestyle. So let me introduce to you our guest today. His name is Perry Zheng. He's the founder and CEO of Cashflow Portal. It's a real estate syndication software and a real estate investor portal, which he founded in April 2020, not too long ago. The portal has reached an MRR of 10K in just 6 months without any paid advertising. So he actually knows how to go out and build a business, build a software, and then market it to people without paying a dime in marketing and attract the right people to him so that he could have an MRR of $10,000, right, in just 6 months, which is fantastic. Perry started real estate syndication over 3 years ago. And today he has more than 2,000 units. He's raised over $20 million and is a lead syndicator on 2 deals totaling 830 units. He's actually currently coming to us live from New York, where he's meeting with some of his angel investors and friends. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But before starting to work on Cashflow Portal full-time, Perry was an engineer manager at Lyft. And he also worked at Twitter and Amazon before that. So Perry is the perfect guy for us to talk to because he's had that job, and it was probably a well-paying job. We'll find out from Perry in a minute. But he went into that world as an engineer, and then he decided to transition into real estate, and he created Cashflow Portal. So do me a favor, grab a pen, grab some paper, sit down, turn off your phones, and listen and take notes. Thank you, Chagai. And take notes to what Perry has to say about building a lifestyle and building passive income and raising millions and millions of dollars, exactly what you want to do in your business. So with further ado, let's bring on Perry Zheng. Hey, Perry.
Hi, Nisam. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you. I want to thank you. I know you're super busy. You're in New York City. You're meeting with angel investors and friends, and you're really living the lifestyle that I promote on my show. And I want to thank you for being here. And also, Master Yoda wants to thank you as well for spending time. So tell us, you worked for Twitter and for Lyft and Amazon before that. What were you like when you were a kid thinking, did I want to be an engineer? Did you kind of fall into it? Share with the audience and our listeners about who you were back then and the transition that made you jump into a Cashflow Portal.
Yeah, as a kid, I was definitely not an entrepreneur. My parents were not necessarily entrepreneurs. I do know I did well in as a kid. Like throughout elementary, high school, middle school, I was number one in my class. So I was that academically smart kid, voted like most likely to succeed or whatnot. Um, and I kind of carried that kind of micro positive reinforcement into my adulthood by working in good university, good companies and whatnot. Um, and so I graduated and went on to become a software engineer, and I spent probably 5 to 10 years of my life in the tech world as a software engineer and then an engineer manager. But I do remember that even as a kid, I tell my parents that I want to do something awesome. I want to create things. I want to be an entrepreneur. And so I finally went out and did it about a year and a half ago.
That's fantastic. It's amazing how you were, you were scholastically inclined, but yet you had the idea that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. Did you know what type of entrepreneur or what field you wanted to go into?
Yeah. So that might be a small lesson for the listeners, that a lot of time people look back at the successful entrepreneurs and say, yeah, they must be successful because they started their lemonade stand when they were like 10 or 8. I will say that's not always the case. You don't have to have certain things when you were a kid in order to demonstrate that you can be successful in the future. You can rewrite your life's history, right? Um, so for me, I think it comes down to a couple of things. One is I like control. I will be more than happy to make X amount and working in my own terms than working for someone else and gets paid maybe 5x or 10x more. That is just my uh, internal drive that aligns things the way I want them to be, instead of following my boss's orders, for example. And so that ability of freedom to control what I do is very important. And honestly, when I was a employee, I was very scared to go out and strike out on my own. Now that I have quit for about 2 months now, we I wonder why I was so scared. There is this amazing sense of freedom that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. I can line up 2 p.m. for a ramen shop, and the line is not very long because I don't have meetings that I apply to go to. I made my own schedule.
That's beautiful. What do entrepreneurs say? I would rather work 80 hours a week than work 40.
Yes, I'm probably working 80 hours a week, but it
Oh,
doesn't
absolutely.
feel like work.
Absolutely. When and it's such a cliche or a kitschy statement, right? When we hear it, I kind of cringe, but it's true. They say when you love what you do, it's not work. It's work. We just love what we do, right? So we do it emphatically. We do it with a passion. We do it with desire. We do it with the idea that, what? We're also going to help other people along the way. It's not just for us, right? And my daughters, for example, they see me. I come home from work, I have my office here, and then I go home and we have dinner and we spend some time together, and then I go on my phone or on my laptop, and they're like, what are you doing? I said, I'm working. Like, again? I said, well, it's better than me sitting and watching TV or staring at the four walls. And, now I have teenage girls, so they're off doing their thing.
Mhm.
Right. My wife is designing our house for us. So she's busy doing that. I said, what am I going to do? Let's work. And you work and you work. And next thing I know, it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And my wife comes out and she goes, are you still working? I'm still working. I got to do this. I got, it's a love. It's something that feeds us.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a lot of similar stories to that. Do you mind if I tell a quick
Oh,
story?
please,
Yeah.
please.
So I was hanging out with two friends, grabbing hot pot, and one of the friends I just met recently, and they are insisting asking for sesame sauce from the waitress. And 3 times later, finally, we decided that they don't have sesame sauce or whatnot. Um, but what I observed was that this person is very persistent and yet polite. They also were very persistent and did a lot of stuff in college. And then finally, they were looking for a job. And then they also just the little things they mentioned. They have a separate Gmail account that they use to sign up for different shopping websites to get coupons and discounts and whatnot. And a week later, they become our account executive. Now, I was just hanging out with my friends. Was I thinking about work? Was that considered work? I have no idea, but that's all I think about. And so, I need an account executive. I need to find someone who is persistent and polite, who knows how to work around technology. And the fact that they have an account with different shopping websites means that they're very good with figuring things out. And that I want our account executives to be quote unquote aggressive yet polite. So these are the attributes I want. And now thinking back, was I working all the time? Probably, because I'm always trying to mix work and reality as I go through life.
That's a great concept, and travelers, you're listening to this either now live or on the podcast on a replay. I want you to take away what Perry just said, because he just dropped a huge nugget on us. Okay, some super incredible information. He was out with his friends every day. His work and his life, he wants it to be combined. But what I picked up was that as an owner of the company, the CEO and the owner, you know exactly what positions you need to fill. But on top of that, you've dialed into every single position and figured out what traits you want this person to have and what qualifications. You didn't just say, I need an account executive, and then somebody with the title of account executive shows up. You go, okay. You actually know exactly what the traits are, so that when you're in your day-to-day, when you're hanging out with your friends, you're combining life and work together, because this is who we are. You cannot separate our life from our work, because it is who we are. So now you're sitting and you have all of this broken down in your subconscious mind and in your forward thinking mind and your analytical mind, and it's there, but you know exactly. And I'm sure with every other position in your company, you have those traits lined up and pinpointed, so that you know exactly. So there's no questions. Is this the right person? Could this person fit? And it does a couple of things. In the show, we also talk about, thoughts are things. You can manifest the things that you focus on, and what you focus on expands. So when you're creating these positions, these avatars, for example, and you're extremely specific with the qualities and the traits and the skill sets that you want, and you focus on this, the only thing that can happen is that the universe brings these people in front of you and opens your eyes to them.
Yep.
So you're doing an incredible job here of really identifying what you want, focusing on it, having fun with your social life, and combining it all together. And obviously it's working.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. That's great. So, all right. So you became an engineer. You started working with these companies. You obviously liked it, right? You enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
What happened then? What made you think of Cash Flow Portal? Were you investing in real estate while you were an engineer, or was that something that you did after you created Cash Flow Portal?
It's a great question. I do think that my career trajectory is a natural progression. It is not almost like a step function. So when I was a software engineer, I bought my first condo in the Bay Area, and I house hacked that property by living in the room and then renting out the other two rooms. A year later, I bought another house hacking property in Seattle, Washington, where I moved back to Seattle. And that's a 5-bedroom, live in one of the rooms and rent out the other 4. And I saw that this is not that hard. And I kept buying single families every 9 months or so. So with 2 or 3 years, I committed about 4 or 5 properties. And then my business partner and I bought a 7-unit apartment complex in Tacoma. Then after that, we bought a 172-unit apartment complex in Dallas, and that is the first real estate syndication, quote unquote. After that, we bought a 408-unit, and then after that, we bought a 236-unit, all as lease sponsors. As I was doing this, I started seeing there's a lot of pain points with managing investors. So I came from a software background. I thought to myself, this is not that hard to create a portal that can manage your investors. And I think I can do it better. Now, that's just a dream. between that dream to the reality is like a month, a year and a half of hard work. So it's a natural progression. Single family, house hacking, small multifamily, large multifamily, creating the software that can help multifamily sponsors.
That's fantastic. And so tell us more about this software. What does it do? How does it help investors? Because I know a lot of people listening to the show, especially when they're starting out, right? I'm going to do everything. I'm going to raise capital. I'm going to talk to my investors. I'm going to build a broker relations. I'm going to underwrite, analyze, manage, asset manage, everything. I can do everything. I'm going to do everything. And, now talking to you, obviously we're learning that we can build a team, we can delegate, we can create exact identities of the people that we need in these specific positions. But now you've also created a software. So explain to us exactly, as a newbie syndicator or as a savvy investor that's been in this for many years, what is it that Cash Flow Portal can do for us and help us grow and like you said, raise capital and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. So real estate cash flow portal is a real estate syndication software that helps you streamline equity raising, automates your back office, and truly gives you financial freedom because it saves you time and money. Um, to give you an example, on our first deal, we raised $4.3 million from 70 investors. That means there are 70 DocuSigns that we send out. They sign it, they send it back. We open up the DocuSign, find out the investment amount, put it in a spreadsheet. Then we countersign it, we send it back. We send them an email with wire instructions. They send the wire. We check the bank every day to make sure that the wire has received. And then we send out another email notifying the receipt of the wire. Doing that for 70 investors is just, I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do
Right.
this. And so the software helps you automate that whole process. In the software, it's one click to send a wire instruction. It's one click to say the wire has been received. Preparing the documents is actually the most consuming time. You have legal documents, and investors are investing through different profiles. We have the unique ability to do it for one profile and then copy all the signature fields into the other profiles. So people spend one fourth as much time on this portal compared to the competitors, for example. So all the little things that I know that technology can solve, I try to incorporate that into the technology.
That's awesome. I can tell you as well from raising capital that it is a very time intensive, pain in the ass thing that we have to do, right? And you want to do it well because that's kind of the back office. That's the customer service that you're supplying to your investors that's going to make them come back and reinvest. You know, um, I think that is one of that outside of having a successful real estate deal, that is the second most important thing that you can do in your business. And, excuse my language, but if you fuck that up,
Yeah.
you kind of screw everything else up. People wouldn't want to invest with you anymore. I got my distributions late. They were wrong. The financials came in late. The K1s, when is this going to, right? All these questions. But on the flip side, when you show them that you are very systematized, that you have a process, that you're working with software, you're professional.
Yeah.
You're not some amateur doing this in the evening.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, syndication is still a new industry, in my opinion. At the level that's the level in which it's accessible now. So there are a lot of new syndicators, and people still do it the old-fashioned way, email and whatnot. But having a portal makes you look professional, makes you look modern. And these syndicators or sponsors could be the best sponsors in the world. They're just not very, modern day tech savvy, right? And our goal is to make them look professional, take care of the technology aspects of it. And every subscription nowadays is through technology. Nobody is printing out like facts and then fax them over at this point, right? So that's my goal. And I think I have the unique combination of experiences between technology and syndication.
Yeah, it's great. I'm actually looking at your website right now,
Mhm.
and it says here we've already helped many real estate syndicators raise $100+ million using Cash Flow Portal. That is fantastic. Now, when you say you've helped them raise capital by using your software, they were able to streamline the capital raising through their network, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Now, uh, tell us more about the software. So we can upload documents, send
Mhm.
out emails. What other items do you have there that can actually help us raise capital, right? Because in as you know, in the real estate world,
Yeah,
there are two things for you to be successful. You need deal flow and
yeah,
you need capital,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
explain how your system can help raise capital for people that are listening today.
Absolutely. So, by the way, these are questions are all very good and very unique. So, and we didn't prepare necessarily for these specific questions. So, just the listener know these are very
I
spontaneous
hope I'm
questions.
not putting you on the spot. And if
No,
there's something that you
absolutely.
want to, we can move on and talk
And
to, but
we have good answers for them. So, uh,
awesome.
so, so we talked about the ability to streamline equity raising, but for upcoming sponsors, you are more interested on how do I know how much money I can raise? Like, how do I ever know that without doing it? And how do I tell the lead sponsor that I can raise $1 million or 1.5? Right? You need to have some kind of expected value. We have and nowadays if you want to be an upcoming sponsor, almost everyone started by creating a website. Everyone say this is what I do, this is my professional record, and these are the deals I probably passively invested in. This is how you contact me. Here is my a menu. You can put down your number here, and that will be synced to my CRM, and then we'll like follow up with emails. We have the feature that allows you to create a website directly from the portal. It's like a LinkedIn biography that has your track record, you that has your how many deals you have passive invested in. If you are a sponsor, it will show all the photos when you close, how many units, what's the type of that property, and you can just send that link to your investors. I don't know in this here if I could share my screen, but if not, I just kind of like you can sign up for free to check out their biography, and the idea is that you can send that link to anyone you know, or we will also put you as in the spotlight so that new customers coming in, not the existing ones, new customer coming in will see a list of sponsors. And if they found your background interesting, they will connect with you. And now there are three pros of using an ecosystem versus having your own website. The first pro is those people may already have an account. So it's a click. They don't have to type in their first name, last name, email address again. You probably also know more information about them, such as their net worth, should they want to share that, because it's all just part of their profile. So it's much easier to click at that one click than like typing your name all over again, right? The second one is you will directly have their email address and they are part of your investor database, and you can reach out to them to establish that substantive relationship. That's up to the sponsor. The third thing, which is the most important thing, is nowadays everyone has a website. Everyone is talking good about themselves, but there's only so much you can say about yourself without external validation. It means so much more when another credible sponsor says that you are good than you saying you are good, right? So there's a lot of social element to it. And so what we're trying to build is like the IMDb or the Airbnb of real estate syndication. There are other tools that help you create that marketing campaign on Facebook. But if you're just starting out, why would you spend that much time create your entire marketing funnel? We are lowering the barrier of entry for sponsors. So we already have the ecosystem. Now, if you are very established, of course, you should continue to have your own website, your lead generation, but you can use Casual Portal as an additional source of leads.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. This is a great platform for beginners and people who are already in the business to come together. I think, I mean, obviously you have a gem, a goal, a beautiful product here. You hit a great milestone with your income within 6 months without having to pay for any advertising, and I'm sure that's just word of mouth.
Yep.
So you know that if it's growing that fast through word of mouth, the service, the product is exceptional. And I'm probably gonna want to sign up for a demo to see how it's
Yeah.
used myself.
Mhm.
This is why I have my radio show, so that I can introduce incredible people like yourself with great products to help us increase our bottom line, so that we can become digital nomads and live life on our terms. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So, all right. So we talked about cash flow portal, and travelers, anybody listening out there, I highly suggest you go, and it's cashflowportal.com.
Mhm.
Check it out. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to check on it. I'm probably going to implement it, because it's
Mhm.
it's everything that I've been looking for and wanted in one place.
Yep.
Right, being able to have all my documents, making sure that the wires got in, then this other part for the raising capital with the sponsors and the net worth and all that. Wow, fantastic. Fantastic. I'm excited. Awesome. All right, let's talk now about how you actually went and started raising capital, because a lot of people out there, as you know, they get involved in this business and they're like, listen, I don't have $1 million. I don't have $500,000. I don't even have $4 million, $4 million, right? I remember when I was a kid, right? And you can probably look out the window right now, walking down the streets of Manhattan, and you're looking up at all these massive buildings. And I was always asking myself, who in God's name has so much money that they can buy all these buildings by themselves? Then I learned about syndication, right? Having other people pay and invest, and then we can make the profits and give them a great return for their money. But how does one get started? That's a big rock that people have to move, and many people fall out of the syndication world because they fail at raising capital, because no one shows them. There's no secret sauce. There's no one word to say that can make somebody give you their money. So what has worked for you? How did you start, and what worked for you so that you're able to go out and acquire 2,000 units in 3 years? That is incredible.
Yeah, good question. So there is the personal aspect of it, and then there's the aspirational. My journey is probably different from most people. So I will explain kind of my personal journey. But to get back to kind of what I said previously, that's why we create Casual Portal, because I know raising money is going to be always a pain point. And how do you get started? How do you validate people? Why would anyone go to someone else's house to go for vacation? It's because of Airbnb. They use reviews. They use a ecosystem to make you feel a lot more safe
Right.
going to people's places. But let me kind of explain how I got started. My personal philosophy is that people invest in the sponsor and not the deal. They usually don't even know what is real estate syndication until you bring it up, and they invest in that person's competency, passion, and just integrity. Those are the three key factors. So whatever you do when you talk to other people, reflect competency, reputation, and your integrity. Okay. So what that means is you don't have to be a good public speaker. You don't have to be that charismatic. You don't actually want to be that party goer that just always knows how to talk to people. That at the end actually is not necessary. What you do need is you do what you say you will do. If you tell people that I'm going to refer you to XYZ, do that within 2 days. Like, don't just be like, say that, and then a month later they don't hear from you. You're not gonna get them to invest ever. Just that's just how you become a competent professional. Period. Now, I got lucky because when I was at Lyft, I was a good employee, and I became an engineer manager. So people knew that I can execute, and they also knew that while was having a full time job, I ended up buying a bunch of single families. They also knew that we were looking into multifamily, and we struggled for 6 to 9 months before we got their first property. So
Mhm.
during those 6 months, when I got dinner or coffee with them, they said, "What you're doing?" I'm like, "I'm looking at multifamily." They're like, "You still don't have a deal yet?" Yeah, I'm like, "It's really actually difficult. I'm like learning so much." And they say, "If you find one, I want to invest." Like, that's how the conversation went. They saw this natural progression that you are improving. It's not like one day you show up, you have a deal. That people just got scared. Like, who are you? Like, did you join a Ponzi scheme or whatnot? Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, show how much you are actually worth to your investors. I will also tell you what I don't do is what I don't do is I don't send out monthly emails say, hey, we're doing this, check us out, here's a YouTube video. Like, people just don't care. So focus on competency. That's way more important than flashy marketing. But that's just my personal kind of philosophy. Now, I also have some tailwinds that I got lucky in the sense that I work at a pre-IPO company and a company went IPO. So all my coworkers know that I'm a good employee. They also have quite a bit of money. And my previous employees and my friends all work at Facebook and Google. So yeah, I am very lucky that I am in a high-tech ecosystem. What I will also tell some of the listeners is that those high net worth people have the opposite problem, is that they have so much money and they don't know what to do with it. They crave for someone who can take good care of their money. It's really hard to wrap your head about like what that means, but they have so much money. It's like the opposite problem. So and what you shouldn't do is just like go directly for the money. What you should do is prove that you are actually a good, competent person.
That's awesome, my man. That was a lot of information. And again, listeners, travelers, you're listening out there, I hope you're writing this down because I was taking notes. Competency, reputation, integrity, prove your competency to people. And what I also heard that you were saying, Perry, is that you were building relationships with people, even the ones that you already knew. You were strengthening those relationships. You were showing them the path that you're on. And what I also saw that you didn't do was that you were shoving deals down people's throats.
Yeah.
Right? How many times we go to a networking event and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, man, I got a great deal. You have no idea who they are, where they came from, but they've got the deal of a lifetime. They usually walk away with no money.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And another thing I heard that you don't do is you didn't ask for money.
Yeah.
You were just out there showing the progression. Like you said, your network saw that you were competent in the work that you were doing. It didn't have to be even in real estate.
Yeah.
Because it kind of flows from one place to another, right? If you're, my business partner has a great saying. She goes, how somebody does one thing is how they do everything.
That's right.
Right. So you can find someone, it could be a bartender. It could be the guy that picks up your garbage or the woman that picks up your garbage. If they're doing a job and they hold themselves to a higher level of integrity, of competency, they will do their job in such a way that you will notice it. It'll set themselves apart from everybody else. Right.
Yeah.
So travelers, when you're listening and you're going, yeah, that's great, but I don't have real estate experience. It's okay. You don't need to have that real estate experience. You have to have the integrity, the competency, the reputation for being the kind of person that's going to take care of your clients, your investors, your project, whatever it is. And like Perry said, that's what people go for. And I agree with you 100%. When I talk with my one-on-one clients and my group coaching clients, and they always ask me, how do you raise money? How do you raise money? I say, I don't know. I've never raised money before. I go out and I build relationships with people. I go and I talk to people. I find out who they are, what they like, what they love, what their fears are. And we talk about life. And then if they ask me what I do, I'll tell them what I do, but I will not push it down their throats.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Exactly. Like I'm in New York talking to angel investors. Every single one of my dinner, I do not even bring out how much you're going to invest or if you're going to invest. And every single time they invest. But it's always the undercurrent anyway. So they just want to know like how you're thinking about things, what's your plan. And then we raised, 3.5 million for the startup. Like I never brought up like how much you're going to invest. They brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I'm doing it in a hypocritical way either. It's just that if they have a question, I answer that question. But I'm not. You could also argue maybe I'm a terrible salesperson.
Well, raising $20 million and acquiring 2,000 units in 3 years using other people's money, I wouldn't call that a bad salesperson. I would say you've got the recipe just right.
Yeah.
you know. And but that's how it is, you know. I cannot stress enough to people that are listening, you know, and it doesn't matter if you're involved in real estate or you've been involved in other industries and you've never raised a dime, or you've raised millions of dollars. This is the way to do it. It's by building relationships, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100% of what you said, that people really don't care about the property. They're not looking at the property. They're looking at you.
That's right.
They're looking at the lead person, people, group, whatever it is. What's their integrity? What have they done in the past? You know, did they, you know, and we all know that shit happens and shit
Yeah.
goes sideways, and sometimes you lose money, sometimes you make money. It's a risk. But you know, what has the sponsor done to mitigate that loss for the investors?
Yeah.
What have they done? How many deals have they gone full circle and paid back their investors and given returns? This is what you want to look for, you know. And it's funny you say that you go out with your investors and whatnot. So I many years ago, I was in a networking, and we went out for lunch, and there was this one guy who was tooting his own horn, and, oh, I've got millions and millions and I don't want to partner with people. And so we talked for the day, and we said, let's go have lunch together. So we went out for lunch, and be what it was, the restaurant was short staffed, the cook didn't come in, the waitress was sick, but they were there with two people, and everything was backed up. The waitress came and kept apologizing, but this guy was incredibly rude and obnoxious to the staff and to the people. Now, it wasn't their fault. They were
Yeah.
doing the best they can, but he was obnoxious. He actually made the either the waitress or the hostess go in the back and cry.
Oh.
Terrible. So at that
Oh.
point, I knew this was not the type of
Yeah.
person I want
Yeah.
to deal with. I want to have in my business. I want to reflect on myself.
Right.
So, you know, you really, and what I love about what we do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we also get to pick and choose
That's right.
who we get to work with,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We get to choose which investors join our investment, our opportunity. Now, I'm sure I can hear a lot of our newbie listeners going, "Are you kidding me? If somebody wants to invest in my deal, I'll bring them all in." Right? We've all had those thoughts in the beginning,
Yep. Yeah.
right? How do you combat those thoughts? How have you gone past that and kind of said, no, I'm only going to pick certain people? What was it inside of you that was able to do that?
I think a lot of it is supply and demand. Um, if you have investors that ask you, and that happens a lot, not a lot, like sometimes they will ask you borrow an hour or 2 hours of your time. They ask for underwriting spreadsheet, and they will ask you a bunch of questions in the question format. I'll call you, and then 2 or 3, 5 hours later, they will pick this one thing. They're like, oh, it's in a location that I'm not comfortable with. Well, maybe you should have said that a long time ago. And what I told myself is, it's a good thing. If I can filter out this sponsor in 2 hours, that will save me hundreds of hours of headache down the road, right? Because they're gonna be saying the same thing, few years or few months into it. And so I count myself lucky that we didn't have those investors. Um, yeah, yeah. So, and the other thing I do also want to say is reputation travels. How you treat waiters, how you treat professionals and vendors matters a lot. And it's kind of hard to say this, but now I am a vendor. We are the software of choice for a lot of the sponsors right now in our mentorship group or outside of it. And how they treat me matters, even though I'm obliged not to say anything about what's happening within the company or not. But if they ask me to be a co-sponsor on their deal, I'm just like, no, because I see how you treat um, your vendors, right? Like some people, if they have a meeting, they don't show up to the meeting without sending a note. That's bad. If they are delayed, that's fine. If you actually sincerely apologizing for it, that's okay. That's forgivable, right? Like you may not be the most competent, yes, but you're forgivable. But if you just like don't show up, it's like, what just happened? Yeah. So don't do that. How you treat people. Um, as one progresses more in life, I really believe that I have lower tolerance of low competency.
Mm-hmm.
If someone doesn't work, a contractor, a vendor, or whatnot, it's like It's not that I fired them. I just, okay, that's it. I just want to deal with people who are just smart. Yeah.
I agree. As we progress in life, as we get older, we don't tolerate the intolerable.
Yeah.
We put out, and I can tell already that, we're very similar. So we put out an air of excellence. We give excellence, and we expect excellence back. And like you said, sometimes things happen. A phone call goes a little bit over time, or traffic, or family it happens.
Mhm.
In today's world, there should be no reason why you cannot reach out
Yeah.
and connect with someone in 5 seconds and say, I'm sorry, I have to cancel. I'm sorry, I have to do. It all goes back to exactly what you were saying. If this is how we're treating one person, imagine what happens if I'm going to invest my money with this person and I have a question. How are they going to treat me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
It all goes back to that. And it doesn't matter if it's real estate or whatnot. We as entrepreneurs have to lead by example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We have to be the example.
And yeah, I have a couple examples to show. So we had a customer phone call with someone who was using other competitors, and they set up a 30-minute call, and then 30 minutes into it, they were just like blown away of like, I did not expect that I have my entire offering and subscription documents ready in those 30 minutes. They're just like, I don't know how you did it, but that's not the type of it's way beyond what they expected.
Mm-hmm.
If there were a question, the company's philosophy is to take care of the customer, the team, and then our company's investors, in that order. Like, that's just the company philosophy. So if it's working hours, I'm not talking about like after midnight, but if it's working hours, the expectation is that we give an acknowledgement to the customers within 10 minutes. We have a dedicated WhatsApp group for all our customers, right? That's the expectation. If it's easy to answer, just answer it. If it's not easy, at least acknowledge that you got the thing and you are working on a solution. And some of these customers end up investing in the company because they were just completely blown away on, wow, I didn't know that's what's expected from a company. Now, did I do it to impress customers? Not, probably not. We're doing it because that's how I wanted to be treated. Because the best real estate agents that I work with, when I ask him a question, say, hey, can you do XYZ? Can you send me the title documents? What he did is he stopped on the highway on the side, stop, park his car, forward me that email, and then start driving again. I said, dude, you do not have to do that. But it goes to show that like good customer service and just good excellence. I mean, he's gonna be my agent for life at this point, because that's the way he treats the clients. And I've been
Absolutely.
referring so many people to him, and it's also the reason that people have been referring so many customers to us. Yeah, last couple of weeks has just been really crazy. So a lot of new customers. Yeah,
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I agree with you 100%. It's customer service. It doesn't matter what we do. It's about customer service. Servicing your client, because we spend so much time and energy and even money bringing these people to us, getting them convinced that we're the best, that they want to come in and join our team. And if it's the portal, or if it's investing, or if it's hiring them as an employee or bringing them on as a partner, what's the point of spending all that time and effort and money if we're not going to treat them well?
yeah,
I want to bring in one person and treat them well, and have them bring in all their friends and family.
that's right.
So I spend money bringing, or in your case, you didn't spend any money advertising. You
That's
just
right.
went out and did it, word of mouth, customer service. You built that, and I love your company philosophy. It's fantastic, and I'm sure you've got a vision statement and a mission statement for your company that everybody that works in your company goes out and follows. Now, let me ask you this: when you started Cashflow Portal, this may be a strange question to ask, but you can tell me if you want to answer it or not. did you have any money to start that company? And the reason why I'm asking is because did you hire employees? Did you start off with freelancers, or with people that were just coming in and giving time for a little bit of equity? That's kind of the question that I'm asking.
So I was an engineer manager. So that's April of 2020, start of the pandemic. I have a couple choices. One is I could quit my job and code it myself. Option two is to build a team and then build the product. I chose the latter. And I was basically moonlighting. I was still at Lyft and told Lyft that I was working at this, and they approve it, everything. Okay. And so it's a side project in a way at that point. I built out a team of 3 to 4 engineers, and then we hire a bunch of interns. And I made a statement to myself, and I know this is like a first world problem. The statement I made to myself is I will put everything I make at Lyft that year, and my net worth will not increase. And I will put everything I make at Lyft back into the startup. And that is the goal, the contract I made to myself. If this fails, I basically did nothing. I learned a ton, but I gained nothing, which is fine. And that lasts for about a year and a half. And so yeah. And first world problem is that I was making a lot, as an engineer manager. But I was I basically take everything I made after tax into the startup. And so we built a pretty large team. At the time I quit was 10 people already. So that's a pretty big payroll. Now, I'm very grateful that I was in that position that I can make those moves, right? A lot of people aspiring, they don't have the type of money. And so that's fair. At the same time, to give myself some credit is I'm bold enough to put that much money into, bootstrapping the company. And the idea I have is if I raise money right away, I'm gonna give a ton of equity away. I don't know if it will actually succeed, that there's a lot of pressure. So I'm just gonna bootstrap and play with it using my money. It's the way that I did my single families with my own money. And should I see signals that it will succeed, do I take on other people's money? And now it's just like I have every signal in the world that this is going to not fail. Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic. That's great. And I appreciate your answering that. That's so I liked what you said. And let me just reiterate for our listeners. So you went out and you built the team first,
Yeah.
right? So you had the vision in your mind of what you wanted to do. You wanted to create the software. And then you asked the question, who do I need on my team to help me achieve that, right? Because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, we get stuck on the how, right?
Mhm.
People say, well, how do I buy a 100-unit property? How do I, raise capital? How do I do this? How do I manage? How do I, how, right? And they get stuck. And when they don't know how, their dreams kind of just disappear in front of them because they go, well, I don't know how. So what am I going to do? And I always, I like to, on my videos and my social media and with my clients, I tell them, don't worry about the how. Let's change those 3 letters around. There's only 2 letters that we actually have to change, the W and the H.
Yeah.
If we change those around, instead of asking how, we ask who, then opportunities open up for us. Because then I don't have to know everything. I don't have to know how to do it. All I need to find is who can help, who knows how to do that, who knows how to code, who knows how to market, who knows how to do this, who knows how. I mean, I don't even know what goes into building
That's right.
something like the cash flow portal, but right. So I would have to find a software engineer, someone like yourself, right? And then you would tell me pretty much, well, we need this and we need this and we need this and we need this, right? And then we would fill that puzzle up with all the pieces. So I appreciate the fact that you went out and you said, okay, let's build the team, right? How long were you working on the vision, on the vision of your company before you started building your team?
I think the idea was simmering for a year and a half. And the concept of like quote unquote a one-pager business plan or putting my thoughts down on paper happened about 3 months before April of 2020. And then I, in a typical engineering fashion, April 2020 is when we wrote our first line of code, because you can never really figure out when the company technically started. And like the LC was like a month later and all that
Uh-huh.
stuff. So that's when we wrote our first line of code.
That's
That's when I hired the first engineer, wrote the first line of code, and then it's like, okay, something happened. So that's what I called it, the April 2020. That's when we started.
beautiful. Beautiful. Well, as we mentioned earlier, sometimes these shows go for 20 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes. We've been going for 15 minutes because it's so awesome. I know you've got some appointments and some phone calls and interviews that you got to do coming up. So I won't keep you. Maybe we can have you back on the show and we can talk about actual real estate, doing deals and what you look for and things of that nature and what you think of the market. But Perry, thank you so much for being on the show. You've really added a ton of value, and I'm definitely going to look at Cashflow Portal for my business. And travelers out there, I highly suggest you going, and it's cashflowportal.com. Is that right?
Fantastic. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, Perry, thank you so much. Enjoy New York. Say hi to my friends out there. and travelers, we will see you next week somewhere on Spaceship Earth. Be well, travel well, and happy hunting. I'm Nitzan Mosry, your host. Thank you for watching. And of course, you can always catch our previous shows on all these different podcast channels. Until next week, I'm Nitzan Mosry. Happy hunting. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.